This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. Shall we start the session, guys? Is it audible to all? Is it audible to all?
Hey Sujit, good
Yes,
morning.
yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
audible.
Hi. So Raju also joined. So today we are going to talk about exceptions. Very interesting exceptions. Till now, whether you respond to my questions or not, I'm least bothered. But in this exception, I want to get a response from all, because why specifically I'm talking about this exception, because you might have seen in your career about exceptions multiple ways, right? That means the concept may be the same everywhere, right? The usage will be different from each and every tool. That means each and every newer perspective tool, right? The same thing happens with a mule as well, right? So in mule, the concept is same, exception handling concept is same, but how to use it, and what are the types of strategies we have to catch the exceptions will challenge you. Okay. You need to be very careful, while understanding, and sometimes what happens, if you're not responding, I don't know whether you are able to understand correctly or not, right? That means you may think, while I'm explaining, you may think that you understood perfectly correct, but when you respond, then only I can understand that you understood correctly or not. This was happened before. In my previous batches many times. When they forcefully ask the answer to respond, they will respond in a wrong way. That means what they understood is different from what is actual. So that is the reason I'm asking everyone to respond back to the questions what I'm asking, especially in this exception handling. So you need to be very careful while listening. One more thing, you don't need to practice also. Why once I complete my exception handling sessions today and tomorrow, you don't need to practice also. It's a purely conceptual and understanding the flow how it works in your. Okay. That is the reason. Please carefully listen to the session. Okay. So we are talking about error handling in Mule 4. Why specifically I'm mentioning as a Mule 4? When you compare with, one second, my pen happened suddenly. What happened? One second. Yes. So when you compare with the Mule 3, Mule 4 exception handling is totally different. Right? Anyone here from Mule 3 background? Mule 3. Okay. Around 5 strategies we have in a Mule 3 to catch the exceptions. Like choice is one strategy, catch is one strategy, rollback is one strategy, global and reference. These are the strategies we have in Mule 3 in order to catch the exception. But when you come to Mule 4, if anyone asks you what is the major difference in a Mule 3 and Mule 4, you can straight away tell exception handling is totally different from Mule 3 to 4. Like, see, this choice, catch, and rollback. These strategies are mapped to one concept called on error continue. We will call this as scope or error handler, right? Along with this on error continue, they have given one more scope called on error propagate. Okay, both are same. We will try to understand what is a continue and what is a propagate and differences between these two. Differences. Once you understand the difference between these two, almost you're done with your exception handling in your Mule 4, right? Next, these global and reference. These strategies are mapped to something called error handler. That means it is called as an application's default error handler or global error handler. Okay. So what are the major change? These strategies, choice, catch, and strategies are mapped to, choice, catch, and rollback strategies are mapped to honor, continue, and propagate scopes. What are the scopes? You will see. At the same time, global and reference, these are mapped to error handler, that is applications default error handler.
Hey
These two.
Sujit, what is that last option in the Mule 3 after global?
Reference.
Reference. Okay, thank you.
Reference. Okay. So here we are going to talk about Mule 4 error handling. If you are a Mule 3 user, these are the changes we have, right? Let me start. So a flow, what is the structure of a flow? What is the structure of a flow?
It contains source, process, error handler.
Source, process,
Error handler.
source part. What we write in a source part?
Listen, HTTP listener.
Only HTTP listener.
No, it could be any listener.
Can I write set payload over there? Huh? Any in the sense, can I write set payload in that source part?
No.
No.
So what kind of components we can configure here?
Which can accept, the source component, input bound component.
Any inbound points? Yes or no? So assume that we configure a listener. What it will do? It will accept the request into the flow, convert that
into Mule event.
event. That event will be processed by the processors. Yes or no?
Yes.
Assume that this is a flow 1. And we have a flow 2 as well. Okay, first we'll discuss about this. I have a flow, right? I am sending some HTTP request, and that event will be processed by the processors in that event, in that flow. Mansa, background noise, Mansa. Yeah, thank you. So assume at the end of the flow, assume that the flow is success. At the end of the flow, how my response is given back to the client? How? What is the process behind the scenes? Whenever the flow is success,
It will go back to HTTP response.
under the listener, there is a responses, right? Responses. What these responses contain? 2 blocks.
Success response, error response.
If there is no error, by default the body will be displayed as what? By default, if there is no response, if there is no error,
Payload, whatever we have.
payload will be given back. Very good. If I get an exception at one of the flow level, okay, in the flow, one of the processor level, assume that I got one exception here. I got an exception at this processor level. So we need to follow some thumb rules here. First thumb rule. Whenever we get an exception, the remaining processes will not get executed. First step. What is the first step? Remaining processes will not executed. Okay. Next, what happens? It will check in a local. First of all, whenever we get an exception, one error object will be created. One error object. This error object contains multiple properties, around 6 properties. What are the properties? Out of that 6 property, 2 are very important properties. One is error is an object, right? Object, in that object dot represents a reference. In that object, if you want to specify a property like a description, what this will do, it will bring the description of that error. right? It will display the description of the error. And one more property is error dot error type. So what is error type? If we get any error, how to identify that error? Based on that error type. Again, this error type is classified into two. One is namespace and one is identifier. So what is this namespace? Assume that this is a consume connector. Consume connector. Consume connector is part of which module? Consume
So
connector is part of
Service,
which?
web service,
What is that?
consuming the SOAP services.
web service.
Web service consumer. WSC is the module name. So namespace will define the module name. And at web service consumer level, that means at a consume connector level, if third-party server is down, how to identify the third-party server is down? Based on the error response we got. That means in that error type, okay, in a flow we have multiple components. At which component level we got an exception, that will be identified. First will be identified a module. In that module, at that connector level, what type of exception maker? See, if you are sending a request, correct, not request, invalid request, then you will be getting a error type as an, in that error type identifier as an bad request, right? And if the third party SOAP server, assume that this is a SOAP server which is pointing to this, right? If the third party server is down, you may get some exception back. So what type of exception what type of exception you are getting? How to identify whether the server is down or the bad request? Based on the identifier. Example, if the third party server is down, we will be getting an exception identifier as cannot dispatch. That means by seeing that we can understand that, okay, for this connector, at this connector level, the third party server is down. Okay, example. So whenever any error occurred, one error object will be created, right? In that error object, if you want to see the description what is configured at the connector level, if you get any exception, but that can be extracted by using a description. This description is a type of string, right? At the same time, we have one more property called error type. Error type is also again a object, right? What this object contains? Namespace and the identifier. What do you mean by namespace? Namespace is the module. That means this. Suppose I got an issue at a request connector. That will be identified by HTTP. HTTP is the module. Request connector is the part of a HTTP module. Okay, like that. And at that module level or at that connector level, what type of error you got? That can be identified by the identifier. Got it? We introduced error object and a description and type of a properties, and under that error type we have a namespace and a identifier. Got it? So first thumb rule is whenever we get any error at a component level, first error object will be created. Then all these things happen. And that means error object contains all this. Okay. Next. Now error object means one error event. Everything is an event behind the scenes. Error event. So error event, again, event, what is the structure of an event? Attributes, payload, and variables. Right. Now that error event will be given back to the listener. Before giving back to the listener, who is giving back to this listener? See, if it is success by default, it will go to the listener and it will be displayed back to the client, whatever the payload it is and whatever you written in the body. But whenever you get an exception, first the remaining processes will not get executed. Then that error event will check in a local error handler. Is there any alternate logic is configured to catch the exception? If at all it is configured, that can be handled. That means that logic will get executed. If at all no error handler is configured, what happens? Mule default error handler is coming into the picture. What it will do? It will logs the error information on the console. Logs the error information, which contains the description, error type, and everything. Error information on console, right? Next, what is the next step? What that mule default error handler will do? It will rethrow that error to the next level. Next level in the sense, if we have only one flow, the next level is listener. Error will be rethrown. Error will be rethrown. Okay. Now, what error means? Error event will be rethrown back to the listener. Now, listener, what it will do? In the listener, it will go to the responses tab. In the responses tab, whether my event is success event or error event as of now.
Error event.
If it is an error event, it will go to the next block where there is an error response. So what will be the body? By default, if you don't configure anything, by default, it will be like error dot description is configured in the body. That means what? What it will do? It will describe about your error and it will be displayed in a plain text, because what is the type? It's a string type. You don't want that. You want to display the error type. Then you can configure like error dot error type. What type it is? It's an object type. So object types can be displayed in some JSON format for readable. I mean, if you want any human want to read, that can be converted. That object is a JSON object. So simple. It's like a transformer only. Hash and square bracket represents what? Data view expressions. It's a body. For that body, what will be the header? You can specify. By default, it is a text. You can change it to object also. Application slash JSON. So I'll show all this stuff. So this is what happens whenever you get an exception. Can anyone summarize this? What I told right now, just now, quickly. Anyone? Once I get an any error, what happens?
Remaining processes will not be executed and error object will be created.
Very good.
And it looks for the local error handler. If it is not available, then it goes to the mule default error handler.
Okay. Perfect.
And to catch the error description, we have the error object. We will have description and error type.
No. What mule default error handler will do?
It will log the error message to the console and error will be returned back.
Error event will be, see, I see whatever you guys are telling correct only, but I will try to correct the terminologies. Okay, don't think that you are telling wrong. No, you are telling is correct, but I will try to correct the terminologies in a flow. Yes, Ravi, you're correct.
Sure,
What
sure.
that mule default error handler will do?
It logs to the error console and error event will be returned back.
Return back to whom?
To the request.
Listener.
Listener.
Listener. See, instead of return, you can use a word called rethrow. Error will be rethrown back to the listener. In the listener, according to the responses, it will be displayed back to the client. Right. So, what that error object contains?
Error type and
It
description.
contains a namespace and identifier.
Description
it has 6
and
properties.
type. Yeah. 6 properties. Out of that, 2 are very important, like description and error type. So, description is of what type?
I'm sorry,
String
Sujit.
type.
Just a quick question on this. So, does it also return the error code?
Error code.
Uh-huh.
I will show the properties, 6 properties, what it gives. Error code in the sense, what you are expecting from that?
Yeah, so because you know that error code is most important when we handle the errors, like what type of error, like the code we are getting from the error handler.
What is that code? I'm
Yeah,
asking, what is
error
the
code, I mean the 404 and
So
like
status
the,
code. That is called status code, right?
yeah, error status code, yes.
Status code. Okay, okay. Yes, it will return the status code as well. So these are, see, our application is a REST application. REST application will have some status codes, is it or not? 500 represents something, 404 represents something, 400 represents something, right? So it will I mean provide the status code too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. See, who is giving that status code? Yes, who is giving the status code? Your Mule application? Who is giving that status code? Your Mule application
Yeah.
or
No, I think
your
it's a consumer,
third-party application in my
third-party
mind?
application, but consumer is consuming that code, right? And returning back to the error handler.
Consumer in the sense, okay, consume
Y-
connector.
Yeah,
Yes,
consume connector,
yes,
whatever is accessing the third party,
yes, yes, yes,
that is
yes.
consuming that code back and
Correct.
sending it to the error handler.
Error handler. Yes. That will
And
be, see, this is part of your event, and the event will be displayed back to the client according to the description what you written in the body. At the same time, if you want to override the status code what you are getting, and if you want to override and you want to display back to the client in different format, you can override here as well. There is something
yeah,
way
yeah,
of.
that's yeah. So once we get that in the error handler, whatever we do with that, it's all up to us, you know.
So it's up
But
to you. How you want
yeah,
to display to your client, it's up to you.
is there any finally block in that? If we like the usually it like try and catch, it also includes the finally
Okay.
block if you want to run
If you are
anything.
from Java background, you are jumping directly onto the finally. Okay, I don't want to go directly over there. We'll go in a sequence.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So guess. So excellent, Ravi. You gave a response. Any other want to give a try? What you understood from the session? I mean, just now, quickly. Very
Yeah,
small thing we discussed.
when we get
Hmm.
the exception in the event processing, the remaining processes will not be executed,
Okay.
and there one error object will be created. Um,
Okay.
and error object is nothing but an error event. If,
Okay.
if we don't design any particular error handler for that project, the Mule default error handler will be called.
That means
And
if you
what
don't catch any exception by using error handler, then your default error handler will come to picture, right? Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
Correct.
what this will do is it logs the error to console,
Mm-hmm.
and it rethrown the error event to the listener.
Who will read through?
Mule default error handler.
Exactly. In the sense of it, it means mule default. Mule default error handler will rethrow back the error event to the listener. Now,
Listener.
based on the listener, it will be displayed. Well, perfect. Everyone understood, guys? Of course, I can give only chance for few, but everyone understood?
Yes, Sujit.
Clear.
Yes, clear. Very good. Next. The same thing I have written in a PPT as well. I will show. Before that, this is the case when we have only one flow. But when we have two flows, what happens? Anyone can guess?
Yeah, so each flow will have its own error handler, right?
1 second. Flow 1. See, why I'm showing by drawing all this, I can show directly on a any point studio only. But I feel while drawing this picture, first I give some what we are going to discuss, what we are going to see, then it will be helpful. I think so. I don't know how you feel, but this is what I feel. Is it helpful really?
Yeah.
Yes, Sujit. Yes,
Yes, it is.
definitely.
Okay. This is the flow reference. By using a flow reference only, we can invoke to one flow to another flow. Yes or no? Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assume that we are selecting this flow 2. So what is propagating to the flow 2? Error event, sorry, event, normal event, right? Event will be given to the flow 2. Okay, this is the flow normally, right? Now, I give one HTTP request. and it converted into event. The event is processed by the processors. Okay, now we have a flow reference is a processor which is giving the event to the next connector in this flow 2, right? Now I got an exception at a one of the processor in a flow 2. Now tell me, can anyone guess what happens here?
Yeah, it will return to the local error handler and then return back to the flow 1 error handler.
You missed the first step.
Yeah.
First, it will check the error handler in flow 2.
No,
It will stop the process.
exactly.
Yeah, it will stop
That is required. Why I'm stressing, you'll come to know later part. Why I'm stressing this point. Okay, next. It will stop. Next.
It will create one object.
Which object? Java object?
Error
Oh,
object.
sorry,
Error
error object, and it is a mule
Specify
event.
that, okay.
It
Error
creates a
object.
error
Or
event,
else we can tell a mule event, error event will be created. Okay. Next.
and it will check local
Local.
error handler.
Yeah, don't feel bad about if you're not getting the word. It's a very good that you are learning something, right? So don't feel
Yeah.
bad about it. So it's a local error handler, right? In that error handler, it will check, is there any scope? That means any error handler is configured to catch the exception or not. Correct? Please try
Yes.
to catch my words, okay? So that it will be easy to when you are speaking out, okay? I'm telling all this in an interviewer's perspective as well. If you go to the interviewer and he's just sitting and tell it will come to the local, no, he will not listen to that. Which local? Okay, definitely you need to specify that local error handler of a flow. Okay, yes. It will catch the exception. Then, sorry, if there is a local error handler, it will catch the exception. Otherwise,
It will go for
return
default
back to the
error
flow 1.
handler.
mule default error handler.
handler.
What it will do?
It will.
It logs the error to console.
Okay, it logs the error information on the console. What that error information contains? Assume that is an error information on the console. What this error information contains? It contains a
description and error type.
Then error type. Remaining things not required. Main concentrate on this. Error information contains description and error type. So how to identify a specific error?
Error type.
By name
By using namespace
and identify.
error type and identify.
There you will not get like a namespace name. Okay, you will be getting a module name and a what type of error. Okay, this is what we can identify the error type. So this is the text message which is given on the console, right? So okay, next your default error handler will log the information on the console. Next step. Now what is the next step?
It rethrown the error event to the listener.
Which listener? This listener?
A flow 1 listener.
No. First, it will go back to the error event. It will be given back to the flow reference. This is the processor, right? Which is referenced in the flow 2. So what happens next? Once the error event, that means what? Is it? I mean, error occurring here itself or not? Can we consider that error is occurring here? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now treat that. If the error occur here, what is the next step?
It will stop the rest of the processes in that flow 1 and then look for the mule event. If no local error handler logic is there, then go to the mule event again. Error handler.
Mule event.
Mule error handler.
Default error handler.
Default error.
Again, will it log the information on the console this time?
Yes.
No, same error already logged. Same error, right? Same error. Same error is carried forward here. So already the error is logged. It will not display again. Next step. What is the next step?
It generates an error event and rethrows it to the listener.
No. Already error event is created here itself.
Okay.
It will not generate again.
Okay, pass it back to the listener.
Error event will be rethrown back to the
error event to the listener in flow 1.
Okay. According to the listener, it will display back to the client. Okay, this is how the flow works. If it is a one flow or a two flows or three flows and number of flows, this is the flow. Okay, how it goes. Okay, if you understand this core concept, remaining things will be like just like that. You can understand like. Okay, let me import a project to make it practically show you. Let me import error handling concept, and I have a very beautiful use case. 0 1 exceptions start. I have a very beautiful use case. Let me explain about that. Today we'll see the basics of this. Then we'll try to understand what is the base and plot points of this exception handling. Tomorrow we'll see the scenarios. Okay, how to handle in this place, how to handle in the next place and all. Okay, let's see. Exception start. So hope everyone are able to follow me. No response. Not able to follow me.
We are able to follow you.
Person A will think about the person B will in which ways respond, why I should respond. Is it the same thing happening here? Okay, let it be. So here, let me expand this exception start project in XML file, and I'll try to show here itself. So the listener, what the listener is doing here? It is listening on 8081 port. And what is the path? Yeah, it is listening on 8081 port, and slash error is the path. Slash error. Next. Listener will convert that request into event. What is the first processor here in the flow, main flow? Which is referencing to, in this example, we have two private flows. One is validate and transform, and one is get product by name. Two flows, right? Now, from the main flow, by using a flow reference, we are invoking a validate and transform flow, right? So that means the error will, the event will be given to the validate and transform. That means in the validate and transform, the event will be processed by the processor. What is the first processor here? It's an is true. Is true is kind of a validator. So if you want to validate anything, or either it coming incoming request or whatever it is, it's like a filter. If you want, it's like a boolean kind of an operator, is it true or a false? If it is a true, understand that it is a success. If it is a false, it will throw an exception from here. Okay. Now it's a is true boolean kind of an operator. What it is validating? So can I able to identify anything here from this expression? Can anyone tell me what is the expression is meant for?
It is checking whether the product name is HP or Mac, then it returns true, otherwise false.
From where? From where it is checking?
From query params.
Query parameter, sorry.
So that means it is expecting some query params, like product name. It should be like HP or a Mac. If it falls under that, then this is true validator is success. If I am not passing HP or a Mac, if I am passing any other value, will it be satisfied?
No.
No, right? Then it is false. False means as an exception. That means some error I got here. So what is the error options? If you want to display some text to the client, so if you want to display some message, if the expression is not valid or if it is not satisfied, suppose example I have written invalid product name. Okay, this is a simple text or expression. It is a simple text, right?
Simple
Literal
text.
mode.
Yeah.
It is in literal mode, right? So if I get an exception here, based on the what is the property you configured in the body of a listener, accordingly it will be displayed. I will come to that point later. Assume that it is success. I'm sending HP or a Mac. Once it is success, then event is given to the event will be propagated to the next
Transform.
processor. What is the next processor here?
Transform message.
Transform message. What is this transform message here? Body. Able to identify anything from the body in the transform message?
It is returning an XML with
Yeah, it is creating one XML body. What is this XML body contains?
product name.
See, when you understand about the SOAP application, consume connector, in that consume connector, have you seen that parse template? Why we use the parse template over there? Why we use a parse template over there?
Transforming the message.
Huh? Sorry.
Checking the syntax error.
Parse template is used before which component?
Consume.
So consumer.
Consume connector means expecting some input in a XML format. That is why we created one XML template and we use a parse template to parse that XML, and that XML format is given as an input to the consume connector. Yes. On that day I told two ways we can parse the XML input. One is by using a parse template and one is by using a transform message also. So this is the what. See, am I writing an XML format? This is the tag get product by name request is a tag, right? And name is an attribute from where I'm getting the value from the
Query parameters.
attributes. Query parameter attribute. So finally, this XML tag under the name as a name attribute will be given as an input to the what is the next component here. So that will be the body from the transformer in the event. What will be the body? XML is the body right now with this format, right? Next, that payload, sorry, that entire event will be given to the next processor. What is the next processor here?
Flow reference.
Flow reference, which is referencing to get product by name, right? Get product by name. Again, the event will be given to the consume connector. Consume connector is expecting something in input format as an XML. So am I giving XML as an input here as a payload?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So it is expecting get product by, it is invoking get product by name, which is
XML.
expecting some XML format. That means name attribute in an XML format under the tag, right? So that's what I'm giving. So assume that if the third party server is down, consume connector is pointing to some third party application. Assume my application only. 1 second. This application only, product service SOAP application. I didn't start at the server, right? Which is pointing to. Then what happens? Will I get an exception at a consume connector level here?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So remaining processor will not get processed. And consume, what type of error? Consume connector may get different kind of an errors. I will show a set of, list of errors also, which can, what error types will be possible at a consume connector level. As of now, what is possible? If the third party server is down, it will be given the response as a cannot dispatch. Based on that, we need to identify what is that. It's an identifier. By using an identifier, we can identify whether the third party server is down or the request is not correct, and etc. etc. Right? So based on the identifier. Now, I didn't started my server, so I got an exception here. If I started a server, then it will be processed and the event will be given to the next level. What is the next level here? Simple. I want to display some logger after web service consumer, and at the end of the flow, whatever the payload I want to display back to the JSON, converted to JSON. So it is a simple use case here. Everyone understood the use case?
Yes.
Yes.
Clear? Okay.
Yeah.
Now let me deploy this application. I'm going to give a request like this. So once I give a request, can anyone tell me the flow? Where it will stop and all? Just now we discussed entire concept, right? Same concept apply here.
It
In
will stop at
validation
is
and
from
transform, it will stop.
No, I want from starting directly, not from there. Going forward, please start from the listener.
So,
HTTP listener will get the HTTP request and it will convert into the mule event. And the next is it calls the flow validate and transform, and
Okay.
it checks the condition.
Mhm.
If it is true, then it will transform that mule event into XML.
By using a transformer. Okay. Now I got an exception. If I give this request, where I'm going to get an exception?
And
The validate flow.
At the is true validator level, I'm going to get an exception. Once I get an exception over there, just follow the steps. Let's see, it is deployed. Let me give a request. Yeah, now you can see I got an exception at what? Which component level?
Validate.
Is true.
Yes?
Validate and transform.
No. Which component level? Flow. We are talking about a flow. Validate and transform is a flow.
Validation what?
The validator. Is true is a kind of what kind of component? It's a validator.
Validator.
So Boolean kind of a validator. So that is why. What is the error type it is displayed?
The
The
module.
namespace. Namespace is a validation. That means it will identify at which component in a flow we are getting an error, and at that component level, what type of error? Invalid. Boolean is the identifier. Can you see the message?
Yes.
So this is the entire error information given by whom?
Mule
Mule
default error handler.
Now tell me. I got an exception at a is true validator level. Can you please follow the steps?
Yes. It will stop it stopped the process.
Okay.
And where the event created.
It will not visible to everything. Will not visible to you as I show in the picture. You need to understand that.
And it rethrown the error to HTTP listener.
No, you need to come in a flow, madam. It will check in a local error
Handler.
Okay.
right? Then, is there any error handler here configured? No.
We did not
No.
configure.
I don't have any error handler. Then what happens? Who will come to the picture?
Mule default
Mule
error.
default error handler.
Mule default error handler. What it will do? It will log the error information on the console. That's what it is done. Next,
Yes.
it will rethrow the error to the next level. What is the next level here?
Transform.
If you place the mouse over there, you will see that. Next level in the sense, you just now we told it will not process the next processor. That means just stop there. Next level in the sense,
Validate and transform. The flow reference.
It rethrown the
the next level in the
listener.
sense, the next level in the sense, if you have a listener here, that means if you have only one flow, that is the next level. That is the next level. Since validate and transform is referenced to be the main flow is the next level. That will rethrow. That means the error event will be rethrown back to the main flow. That means to the flow reference. So error event is rethrowing back to the main flow. So since I got an error at this flow reference level, this logger present in this main flow will get executed or not?
No.
No.
It will execute.
I got an exception here. Will it main logger in the main flow will execute or not?
No, it will not execute.
No, it will not be executed.
Perfect.
It will stop the processes.
Yeah, that's what we discussed. When the error event comes back to the flow reference, the remaining process in the flow one also will not get executed. So then what happens? Again, it will check in a local error handler of the main flow. Did I configure anything again?
No.
Now, mule default error handler, what it will do?
It will pass the same error event back to the.
Not
flow.
pass, it will rethrow.
Rethrow the.
Starting, I will try to, okay, I'll try to do it. So, the error event will be rethrown back to the listener. Okay. Now, what this listener will do under the responses? Will it go to first one or second one?
Second one,
Second
error
second
response.
block, right? When we get any error. So I said an error object will be created. Error is an object, right? So out of that error, we have a many properties. Out of that, description is what type? String type. Error type is the identifier. That means, sorry, it's what type? It's an object type. So by default, I said what it will be displayed? Error dot description. With which format? Plain text format, right? That's what it is showing on the screen of, it will display back to the client. Yes or no?
Yes.
What happened, guys? Not able to understand? Very simple. Whatever the body here, it is getting displayed in a plain text format. What is this body? Error dot description. If you see in that error console, what it is, I said it will log entire error information on the console, right? So what this error information contains? Message. What is a message? Message means description. What is the description here? Invalid product name. In that error, by default, it will display the description. If you don't want this description, then if you want to go with the error type, it will be display this error type. Let me change the description otherwise. So how to change?
Error dot type.
Error dot
Error type.
error type. So it is an what type? Error type is an what type? String type or object type?
Object.
Object. If you want to convert that, the output format to display in a client, no, we cannot display the object in text format. What we do? We convert into some like JSON format, which is readable format. So see, I'm just saving this with the changes. Okay. Again, it will be restarted. Once I give a request again, you will be getting error information, and you can see the info level log also of the application. That means what is the info level log? Do you
Sir,
have any info level log here?
by default it takes information, that error also.
Which
In
error?
error dot error we have two types, right?
By default, error dot description. If you want to change that, you can change it. That's what I have done now.
Okay.
So I got an exception and message is invalid product name. Now you can see the error in which format?
JSON.
Is it a JSON object? Right? Actually, this is not in a structured way. Okay. I will show in a PPT how it will be. So every error will follow some hierarchy. Okay. Every error will follow some hierarchy. So what type of error I got? Invalid boolean is a type. Under namespace is what? Validation. Validation is the namespace and identifier is a invalid boolean for this error. So what is the parent for this validation identifier? Validation and invalid boolean. Namespace is a validation and identifier is also validation. So for all, this parent is any is the identifier, namespace is mule. So my point is every error will follow some hierarchy. In other words, every errors are classified into two, any type and a critical type. What falls under any type? Any error which can be handled at an application level, that is considered as an any type, right? Any error which cannot be handled at an application level, those are called a critical, considered as a critical. Can you please name few example for critical errors? In Java, you may understand about checked and unchecked exceptions. Critical type. Fatal errors is a memory outage of the server, which those can
all
be
fatal.
fatal errors. See, can we handle that exceptions at our application level? No, right? So if I get an exception at a transformer, can I handle that?
No, we can just return it as is back.
No. Transformer. Can't we judge if I'm
We
getting an
can
exception? transformer
hand-
level, and we judge
Yeah, we
and write
can.
handle that? Yes,
We
right?
can.
But if we get any exception at a consume connector level, can we handle that?
Yes.
No.
If we
No,
get,
no, we cannot.
oh my God, why not?
The
We can.
WSDL file
Huh?
we can. In
We can
WSDL file we
handle.
cannot.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
If the third party application is down, okay, third party server is down, and your consume connector is pointing to that, while writing a code at that point of time, can't we guess that, okay, if the third party server is down, why can't you write some alternate logic by catching the exception? Can't we
Yeah,
do
we
that?
can catch the exception, but we cannot manage that third party, right? But we can catch the
No, no,
exception and
that's what
take
my question is.
necessary action.
My question is, can we catch that or not?
Yes,
Yes.
we can catch that.
Yes.
That is what I'm asking. Okay, so we can, so any exception which can be handled or cached at an application level, that falls under any type. Okay, any exception which cannot be handled at an application level, that comes under a critical type. So this invalid boolean is an any type or a critical type?
Anytime.
Answer is on the screen.
So anytime,
Anytime.
Answer is on the
any.
screen here. Any type, right? So what and all we discussed today? We discussed few things like, tomorrow I will show you exactly, I mean, in a while a PPT. I use the PPT only for this exception handling. I will talk about all this again in a tomorrow session. Please go through the recording one more time and ensure that you have some, I mean, of course, I can see by your answers. I got only answers from few of people out of 14, 15 people, 2 to 3 people only responding again. Okay, what happened to others? I want answers from all. So by tomorrow's session, I want everyone to understand the concept, basic concept of exception handling, because tomorrow we are going to see different kind of scenarios. Okay, how it flows. Got it, guys?
Yes,
got it.
Tomorrow I will show the PPT for this exception handling also, and where wide variety of use cases also I have given in the type PPT. Okay, you can go through that. But before that, I don't want everyone to get confused in this type description and whatever it is. Okay, whatever we discussed. So I want everyone to be clear.
Sujit,
So that,
normally in Java we have different types of exception, right? 3 types. Here also we'll have same
what is that 3 types?
custom exception and a default exception.
Hmm.
And one more thing we
First
have.
identify that. We'll discuss that tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Already we discussed about default, right?
Okay.
Custom exception means what you are going to configure. That's what I didn't talk about till about a continue and a propagate. That is called customized. How to handle your exceptions, how to write alternate logic for that, right?